fast as I can. For me to leave is a big, I'm 72 years old. I have got at least 2 tractor trailers full of woodworking equipment and junk that somebody accumulates over 72 years. I was going to retire here in this town. I don't think I am.
You just raised a good point. A lot of us, our kids have come back here to live. They came back here to live for a reason. They grew up in a community. It had swim and tennis. Back then, they walked to school by themselves. Okay, their parents didn't have to escort them. And I think sometimes, I think Dick Williams uses the term, our city seems to overreach in some areas. There's a certain quality of life people can get. Now, I had all my kids here 5 years ago until John took 2 of them out of here. The other one's still here. And it's a nice thing, I think, all of us, that when your kids come back and want to live where they grew up, it means that it was a good experience. And I don't think we're all looking for, to go back in time, not that at all. But there's something special about what these people just spoke about a residential community. We are a residential community. I belong to the Dunwoody Homeowners Association, not the Perimeter Mall Association.
Amen.
Okay? That's my revenue base for where I live at this point. But I belong to the Dunwoody Homeowners Association. And that's why my families are settled here. That's why our kids are coming back here. And that's what people are trying to preserve. Now, again, I'm not casting aspersions on individuals, but I think you've got to be real careful when you overreach. Okay? And, we are what we are. We're not Canton Street in Roswell. We're not Decatur. Okay? Yeah, I got a grant for $500,000 to spruce up the park because it looked like hell. Okay? It wasn't to rebuild it. Okay?
Right.
It wasn't to The bottom line here is what people are talking about is we got limited resources. Let's just stop and think about how we want to spend our money. I'm sure, don't boo this one, the park will probably look very nice when it's done. But was that the best use of money, or would we got to have more roads paved? Whatever.
Exactly.
All I'm saying is we need to think about how our resources are being spent. That's all. Okay? And again, furthermore, and remember the employer-employee relationship. And when you're an elected official, okay, and you have people in the bureaucracy working for you, they're the employee. Don't forget that. It's the employer and who leads the ship, okay? And who does, as somebody else said it best, they're there to serve us, not us to serve them. That's all.
When somebody in this group here calls you from District 2, don't tell them, oh, I've heard about that, and I'm not coming on over to talk to you at your house to look at the problem. You're their representative. You don't work for the city council. You work for us, from these people right here.
I concur. I've already been out to, a lot of houses.
We talk about projects and where the city's going, and I think that's one of the biggest things. Someone had touched on it about how the city council is not holding people accountable. And I'm talking to you, John, and you, Doug, okay? And I'm going to give you a clear example of what I'm talking about. Go to Brook Run right now. You have let Brett put a tent over every one of those little pods that are recreational pods that already had a tent in a section of it. So we have a tent over a tent. Now, who's managing Brett that would say this would be a good thing to put on a playground? Do you not care about our kids, city council men? I'm asking a question. Do you not care if they get vitamin D or not? I mean, this is the reason why we say go outside and play. So you won't put a tent over the thing, and nobody managed him.
I don't want to get into a debate, but I can tell you that the heat of summer in August on that playground is extremely hot, and those shades allow the children to actually play an extended amount of time in the summertime. It also cuts down on sun exposure.
They also have a little tent already in that. That's why the kids go in, play in that little area, they come right back out. It's amazing how kids go in and out, in and out, I'm sure you don't look at it that way, but I do. From a medical perspective, we're seeing more and more people with vitamin D deficiency. And from that perspective, I would say, why? Let them go out. We slather the kids with sunscreen and send them out. I saw that and I said, why would we put a tent, then another tent over? And who's managing it? And this is the way all the projects go. Nobody really, there's no checks and balances. There's so many new projects being taken on that nobody looks at, well, when we did that, we'll start over here. And nobody goes back and says, how did this complete it and what was the benefits of it and was it really necessary to do something?
Yes, sir.
Live on Burmack Road, and I guess a couple of subjects that I'd like to have answers to or discuss. It's the circle, Burmack and Womack. Where do we stand on that? And I guess I understand it correctly that the city has spent over $100,000 on engineering costs for that. And to answer your question, who oversees this? We're spending $100,000+ for engineering when the roads are falling apart. And I hope with your presence coming on the council that these are some of the items that we, the community, are going to understand. I mean, we're really getting pushback on this. We're like, they think we're a bunch of nuts putting the signs, if you drive up and down Burmack Road and that area, we kind of get, like someone said, we're rabble rousers. But anyways, that's number one. I'd like to see, where we stand on that. I don't know if you're prepared to answer that question or not.
I guess the quick answer is, it seems to be dormant, although I have heard talk that they want to, that the city and presumably some on the council want to revisit that intersection.
Why? How are we going to know that? I mean, what feedback? I mean, the community is really asking for feedback. It kind of drifted off. It's sleeping now. It's not dead. To me, I think it's sleeping.
That's, honestly, sir, you know as much as I do, and that's part of what I have to learn now that I'm about to take office, and that's high on my list.
Okay, good. And maybe within, say, 3 or 4 months, can we get feedback? Can we expect maybe some feedback on that and see where that is? And
I think the community deserves an answer. What's the sense of the council, and where are we going with intersection projects in general?
And I have one other item is the perimeter college. What is the does anyone or I'd like to have maybe this, as far as where are we going with that? Where is the state going with that? Are we going to keep holding there? I heard a comment, I think it was in the crier here a month or two ago, which I thought was a pretty good idea, whether it's feasible or not, where there was communities and even around the perimeter center, rather than building here and bringing the traffic here, which is we all know is horrible. Why doesn't the state lease some in the real estate, at the perimeter center or that area, rather than building here in Dunwoody, which we're again, they built this, which years ago, 25, 30 years ago, that was a great thing here. But now we have, 25, 30,000 children going, kids going there to college daily. And, traffic's, as we all know, is a mess. So, maybe in the next few months, we could maybe get some feedback on that and see, where we're going. Are they going to continue to build there and expand? Or is that done? I know they've had some financial problems.
Fair enough, sir. Thanks. Yes, sir.
There's also a question coming up on what happened to the area for the Shallowford Hospital and where is that going? And again, we're getting no feedback on what the council is thinking or what they're planning on doing with that area, and there's no attempts to go out to the people and say, what should we do with this?
Well, I think that's pretty well been programmed. There's a 5-acre park on the corner of Shallowford currently in design. There's some there's still details being worked out. There's a lot of controversy over an amphitheater that's right next to Shallowford that a lot of people think is inappropriate as an
And again,
example.
how much money do you want to spend? Should we take some of that money and maybe repair some of the roads so you can actually get there?
Well, and then the other part of that land is actually phase 2 of Project Renaissance. So there's going to be a lot of, John Whelan homes on the eastern part of that piece of property. Then to the south of Pernichal, there's 2 structures that we own that we are leasing out, one to Emory Healthcare, and the other one's got an existing lease. I'm not sure who the leaseholder is. So that's the quick summary of what's going on with that property. But I concur about road repavings. It's not sexy. It's not a big flashy project. But I'd personally also like to see us catching up from the years of county neglect. I know that there's plenty of roads in Dunwoody right now that in a good rain like this, you've got clay coming up. You're seeing orange coming up through the cracks of the road. Well, that means you're losing the road bed, so that's obviously a bad thing. That means that instead of a mill and resurface, you're into some more serious work that's obviously more expensive, and the longer we put things off, the more roads we're going to end up having that complete rebuild versus an easy resurface.
That needs doing.
Cindy?
I have a question. I was at one of the city council meetings the other week when they were discussing Renaissance Park, and they said they were putting a playground over where the Whelan Park is going, and then they were going to put a playground where the hospital was. And, so everywhere we're going, we're going to have playgrounds. Okay, my child is 23. He doesn't use a playground now. So are we going to do anything for those of us who are not young and spry anymore? That's my question, because a lot of us that live here are not, extreme. I've had a lot of illnesses, so I'm not highly mobile, but I do walk and I do go to the dog park, and that's kind of what I'm looking for. Are you going to just cater to young kids, or are you going to think about the rest of us as we age and place? That's right.
Jim, let's talk about, there's a grand opportunity right across from our city hall at the perimeter 41 address. I think, correct me if I'm wrong, council members who are here, it's going to be a park there, a certain number of acres. Is that right, Bill? So I guess they're going to, it's already been, I don't know what kind of park it's going to be, if that's been decided or not, but I can tell you that I walked down there the other day from the back of my neighborhood, Georgetown, and I was amazed to see at the tributary that runs from Dunwoody between Georgetown and the Ford building down there, under 285 down to Murphy Candler Park, there's a beaver dam there. Now, my concern is that Warren and Company are going to get some fine contractors and people to go out there and bulldoze that up and make it into a nice park, and we won't have the beaver, we won't have the red-tailed hawks come to the area anymore because they put up several tents that weren't needed, and they put up playgrounds that aren't needed for 23-year-old kids to enjoy. So maybe this is an opportunity for this park, that area down there, to remain somewhat natural and be a park where a 23-year-old can go and have space to go throw a frisbee with their, in their bare feet in the park and enjoy it, which we desperately need. I mean, it's a shame that we voted down as a community, taxing ourselves a little bit to get the green space so that we, John Whelan Homes, wouldn't put up property over there at the pipe. I blame ourselves for that. We didn't want to tax ourselves, so now look what we get. But there's an opportunity right there, Jim, if you're listening. I don't know what decisions have been made about that park space over there, but there's an opportunity to make that park something that maybe your 23-year-old son can enjoy, and it doesn't need to be maybe a kid's park. It doesn't need to be paved over. Perhaps maybe even we can do it in such a way that that beaver dam will stay there.
Can I summarize both of your comments as, what are our priorities, big picture for parkland? I mean, I think that's really the question here is what, and we have a parks